Are they the next Stone Cold, or are they just Stone Cold? Let's take a temperature check of NXT 2.0. We're going to run through the debutants on 2.0 to see whether they are hot, lukewarm, or cold. And when I say debutants, I mean the wrestlers, the teams, and in some cases the gimmicks that premiered at the premiere of the former black and gold brand. And let's start with the combo of Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, who are not only at the start of the list, but also top of the Mercury. Hayes smashing the breakout tournament, and on the first episode of 2.0, introduced his buddy Trick Williams, a hunk of a man who is there to keep Carmelo right and keep him focused. And this focus has led to Hayes cashing in his briefcase in the bank to become the NXT North American champion. And a rivalry with Johnny Gargano seems to be on the cards now. They are hot, so very hot are Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. Trick has the gift of the talk, and Hayes has the gift of the walk. The brightest, hottest future for these two in 2.0. We're going to stay with doubles for this part. Less califaction from this combo in Brooks, Jenson and Josh Briggs. When the final Evolve champion Briggs went to a bar to drown his sorrows, he apparently got into a fight with Brooks Jenson, and this led to them becoming friends through fighting. And now they're a knockdown, drag-out tag team that have had mixed results since the arrival of 2.0. Jensen and Briggs, they sit very lukewarm at the moment because the whole pseudo-Southern Brawlers tag team thing feels a little bit played out. I don't think they've really grown into the role quite yet. Give it time, who knows what will happen. I'm not calling time on the Bar Brawlers right now. They're in the middle. We hold the door open for Xyon Quinn next, who seems to be letting a bit of a chill in. Now, the Australian rugby standout certainly does stand out. He's tall, he's handsome, lovely beard, lots of tattoos. Not awful in the ring, but he gives off a very generic big man vibe to me, outside of the whole, I am holding open doors for ladies, I'm an old school gentleman, yes. There doesn't really seem to be much else to it. He's very much like one of those big lads that WWE hired in the mid-noughties to a series of results, not always good. The thermometer is showing Xyon Quinn as cold currently. I think you need a little bit more meat on your bone outside of I am tall and I'm nice to people. I'm not exactly sold on the character right now. I'm sure Quinn will be fine and he'll grab himself a chance to improve at some point. We'll see how we do. Anyway, I'm going to do a hospital pass before he beats me up to a trio that's very much topping the Mercury in Toxic Attraction. When Mandy Rose stumbled back onto NXT, it was a little bit lost. It felt like a very directionless call down. Enter Jacy Jade and Gigi Dolin under her watch to become a foundation of femme fatales. They flock together and win a lot. And I'm really enjoying the work of the artists formerly known as Avery Taylor and Priscilla Kelly. And with Mandy there, now brunette and badass, she's a real good fit for this sort of matriarch of mayhem. And they're about to step into Halloween Havoc for a shot at the women's tag team titles. I think Toxic Attraction is very much hot in NXT 2.0. At a time where, like, the women's tag team division and the men's to an extent is so thin, wafer thin across all brands. Toxic Attraction is a team that you feel like you could perhaps build a division around a bit. There's a lot to love there. From a top doubles to a fast rising singles, we are talking about skater girl Cora Jade, the youngest signing to NXT. Formerly Elena Black, she had a brief dalliance in 1.0, but has really sort of formed her own voice in 2.0. She scored a fluke win over Frankie Monet, and she scratched off 3 sevens and scored an upset over Elektra Lopez recently as well. So the whole thing is she's like an underdog a la a Mikey Whipwreck if you're a fan of a certain vintage, but the difference here is she keeps winning. It's different, I guess. She's lukewarm for me right now is Cora Jade. I think there's lots to love about sort of the girl next door type character, and I think that there's something to come sort of in a pre-heel turn Dakota Kai type mold, but I'm not quite there yet with it. Jade's boyfriend, Trey Baxter, is a little cooler, though, but not in that way, unfortunately. Blake Christian had himself a short but fun time as part of Impact Wrestling in the X division. He got to show what he does there. Ended up doing well in the Breakout tournament as well, and here he is now as part of NXT 2.0. Slightly revamped image, and his real-life relationship with Cora Jade being trotted out on television a fair bit. However, whilst Cora keeps winning, Trey keeps losing, leading the commentators to wonder why Cora is with such a loser. We can maybe see where this is going. Trey Baxter sits cold on the thermometer for me here at the moment. Not enough really makes him stand out outside of being the partner of Cora Jade. Maybe time to become the winner of some things. Back to the women's division for this one, and an early standout from the Diamond Mine has to be Ivy Nile. When we first met Ivy, she was hanging out with The Rock on Titan Games, and she started learning to wrestle soon after that under the watchful eye of Dr. Tom Pritchard and Kane. And she was introduced as part of the Diamond Mine just a few weeks ago, had her first match, and you know what? It was very good. Like, there's a lot of promise in Ivy Nile, and that's why, in no time at all, I believe that Ivy Nile has moved the thermometer all the way to hot. I think that when the Diamond Mine was formed, we had ideas, at least the stories go, of it being like Roderick Strong and Arturo Huaz and Marina Shafir, and instead it became something very different, very much younger, and I think Ivy Nile has absolutely rose to the occasion, and I think she's going to rise up the women's roster in no time at all. I really like what Ivy Nile is bringing. Staying down to mine, we have Julius and Brutus Creed. The Diamond Mine changing with pressure brought in this NCAA awarded tag team. Brothers that love a good fight. No frills wrecking balls in the tag team division of NXT 2.0. Now, despite a non-clean victory sheets, like they lost just the other week in rather screwy fashion with some shenanigans around, there's been a lot of emphasis put on these two just being just wild brawler types. Like you'll see them just punching each other's faces and tagging each other very aggressively. I like a lot of that stuff, I do. I don't think we're quite there with them yet, which is why they are lukewarm on the thermometer. I feel that the crowd aren't massively biting on the Creed brothers, and I think that affects it somewhat as well. I do see what they're going for, but that location is still a little bit far away. Up next, chatting up a storm on NXT 2.0 is Lash Legend. So we're yet to see what Lash can do between the ropes, but sat in a chair with a fancy cocktail, she's been rather fun. Lashing Out is her wrestling talk show, and she dishes the dirt, spills the tea on things happening in the wrestling world, and not just in NXT, but across WWE as well. And the shows are short and sharp. Instead of it being in the ring, they're in front of a live studio audience. They're not long enough to be boring, thankfully. Even so, Lash is giving off a lot of lukewarm energy for me right now. The talk show format is quite a played out trope. Lash is doing well enough with it, and I think that the moment that Lash Legend gets into the ring, we'll reevaluate her mercury, and I think she'll be all the way hot. I've got a good vibe about her. Forever blowing bubbles next is Amari Miller, a track athlete trying a new thing. Amari Miller very much has a lot of swagger. in the ring at the moment. However, the former Cameron Clay hasn't really got a lot going on outside of being a multi-sport talent. You know, nothing's really made her stand out with the exception of bubbles being blown around her entrance. She's a bit cold for me at the moment, is Amari Miller. Not quite sure what we're biting into yet, but give it time. Who knows what will happen. One who really stood out recently on NXT was Elektra Lopez, the newest member of Legado del Fantasma, brought in to kind of be the buffer for B-Fab in their fight with Hit Row. They had a hit on their hands with that no-holds-barred match, did B-Fab and Lopez, with Lopez just standing out as like a bit of a heavy hitter in the women's division. She then lost by a roll-up to Cora Jade, which was an interesting choice. Despite all of that, I'm going to say that Lopez right now is lukewarm for me. Being aligned with Santos Escobar, that will very much pay dividends as the weeks and months go on. I think you can't find a finer learning tree than the one that she's currently under. And I know she's got a history of stuff before, but then, you know, you're entering a whole new system, aren't you? And you need somebody who knows that system. And I think that Escobar certainly does at this point. I wait to see what she does here. Right now, she's warm. She's warm. Bringing the heat, though, from the land down under is Grayson Walla. So a former competitor on Survivor, he started wrestling like when he was like in his 30s. So he came very late into the game and really made up for lost time. Briefly teamed with Drake Maverick when 2.0 was getting underway. He then had a Cruiserweight Championship match with Roderick Strong. He's since done stuff with Cameron Grimes, trying to get him finding a date, and with LA Knight, where they battled to be the host of Halloween Havoc. So you know what? It's not about wins and losses, a great man once said. It's about likes and swipes. And we're swiping right on Grayson Walla. He's a hot for me right now. I think he's one of these guys that has a lot of prospect. And do you know what? I really like the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he walks, the way he carries himself in the ring. He stands out. And I think he could be some guy that you put really strongly in the Cruiserweight division. And you know what? And being put alongside so many 1.0 lads, that's quite the seal of approval, isn't it? Quite the seal of approval. We go from Walla's School of Love to Andre Chase's School of... I don't know. We're talking about Andre Chase. Formerly Harland Bravado. He rocked up as a singles wrestler. He used to tag with his brother who retired, and he started doing his thing as a singles wrestler. And then he came to NXT 2.0, and they decided to make him a teacher of Andre Chase University, where we had some skits of him shouting at students, and he wrestles in a jumper and trousers, which probably why he hasn't been racking up the wins. It's not much move in those teacher slacks. The grade for me is at a high one for Andre Chase. He's pretty cold right now. I just think, again, we've seen this a few times, sort of these one-note tropes that haven't quite landed with the people that are playing them. And the school teacher thing is another one, and I genuinely think that it's been done better in the past by, you know, and even some of the worst teaching things. I'm talking like your Mad Strikers and your Dean Douglases. I feel like there was more conviction than Andre Chase is giving us right now. So he's cold at the moment, I'm afraid. A WWE first now, the first Singaporean superstar, Dante Chen. So the former Trexus got a tryout in Shanghai that did very well, and he was brought in with much fanfare via the Performance Center. His debut came with a little video package and some new ring attire, and he's got an entrance mask now. It was a short, simple win over Trey Baxter, and he had a win on 205 Live, which was a little bit meatier, and apart from that, not a whole lot going on. Chen is currently cold on the thermometer for me, with so many debuts, as you can tell by the length of this video. Standing out is very difficult, and I think being from Singapore isn't sufficient charm to make Dante Chen stand out right now. So, not to say he won't down the line, but for me, it's a cold right now. From Singapore to New South Wales for Persia Pirotta. Steph delanded in NXT as Indy Hartwell's best friend, as Indy was now a happily married woman. Her mates turned up to help direction into the tag team division, and They formed a mighty fine, best friends inspired team in 2.0. Hartwell's heart has been drawn to Dexter Lumis, but Persia is always there, keeping Indy on the straight and narrow. We kind of see where this may end up going soon, you know. Choose him or me. I guarantee we'll hear that at some point. Australia is warm this time of the year for Persia. She's lukewarm, to be perfectly exact. And I think that this is great to give Indy Hartwell something to do now that the way has gone away. It gives us something to focus on. And you know what? Let's bolster that women's tag team division. Let these two have some fun. There's a friendship ended with Indy Hartwell storyline that is, as I say, bubbling away somewhere. And I'm sure when that happens, the thermometer will climb for Persia Pirotta. And from Persia to Paisan. Was a cheap one. The most memeable star in NXT 2.0. I'm talking about Tony D'Angelo. A series of vignettes have introduced us to the cousin Nikki of NXT, talking about working on the docks, being part of the family business. Then he wrestles, in which he slips some money into the referee's hand. Actually a decent enough wrestler. He's in that tracksuit, which is a sort of Paisan, sort of mafioso-esque tracksuit. And he scored wins so far. There's a lot of love from the crowd. He was, you know, he may or may not have whacked the producer of Lashing Out. He admits on his grandfather's grave he never did it and slipped some money to people to forget about it. You know what? He's hot. Let's just cut to the chase. Tony D'Angelo is hot. There is, and this is where, like, it's not a fine science in grading these people, because you have got people who are sort of old tropes and old sort of stereotypes and people, and they're not working. Tony D'Angelo is absolutely breathing life into what he's been given. Like he's wearing it like a fine suit. And I can see why people love him. He may or may not have paid me off to tell you that, though, but he's definitely hot. We go from someone else getting the internet talking for a slightly different reason in Joe Gacy. So WWE managed to tame the CZW star and make him a sort of right to censor upgrade for 2021, talking about making NXT a safe space from microaggressions and cancel culture, something that Fox and the Daily Mail caught a hold of and applauded Vince McMahon for slamming the woke left. And shortly after that, a lot of mentions of Joe Gacy disappeared from WWE's social media, leading us to think that he'd been cancelled. Well, he hadn't. You know, he was back on soon afterwards talking about the fact that he hadn't been cancelled. Oh, you did one on us. You know what? I've enjoyed the work of Joe Gacy. He's running hot at the moment as well. Being in the mix with Tommaso Ciampa, as he was the other week, suggests there are plans afoot for Gacy to show off aggression within NXT that is far more than micro. There's less optimism, unfortunately, for the guy who had a run-in with Gacy the other week. I'm talking about Harland. Now, I know, I agree, I was not expecting to do this list and talk about how Parker Boudreaux, the hand-picked WWE star by Paul Heyman, everybody who went, here's the new Brock Lesnar, was not expecting to be grading him in this way, but I thought he'd hit the ground running. Instead, they had him standing in the seats with his whole head shaved, doing a thing where, like, he gets his face touched by Joe Gacy and runs away. Peculiarness. He's running cold for me right now, is Harland, and I feel like you had the next Brock Lesnar and you've chosen to make the next Lars Sullivan. Weirdly. It's kind of what I'm feeling. I do hope the madness ends. I do. Our final two debutants have had standout treatment on NXT 2.0. For this one, it's hard not to stand out when you're so flippin' tall. I'm talking, of course, about Von Wagner, who was inserted into the main event of the first 2.0 show with the NXT Championship on the line. What a showcase for the second generation wrestling star, the baby boy of Bo Beverly, of all people. He's made an immediate impact. He was in that main event. We then had a video of him training in the woods with a tire and a hammer. He's formed a friendship with Kyle O'Reilly. Not a bad place to be. But it's a weird sort of kind of waiting for one to turn on the other at this point. That's what it sort of feels like. He's despite all the high rolling, Von Wagner is lukewarm to me right now because I believe hitting a tire with a hammer does not a star make, in my opinion. Or going glamping with Kyle O'Reilly, as he did the other week as well. There needs to be something here. The bloom is far off the rose with Von Wagner, though. You know, I think that an eventual tussle with Kyle O'Reilly and a bit more sort of character development, and we'll see what the higher-ups see in this guy, which is a future WrestleMania main eventer, apparently. Lastly, but by no means leastly, there is Bron Breakker, the first of the new faces that we saw on NXT 2.0. Stepped out and battered LA Knight in relatively quick form and has set his sights on Tommaso Ciampa's NXT Championship, which is impressive when you consider that barely over a year ago, the son of the dog-faced gremlin Rick Steiner was playing football. He has gravitated to sports entertainment so very, very well, and he is undoubtedly hot right now on the scale. He's explosive in the ring. He's a great Steiner-esque promo, and when they finally make that Steiner connection, which they haven't done yet, there's going to be a great story to tell as well when he gets onto the main roster. Bron is absolutely the hottest of all the NXT 2.0 stars. Maybe Tony D'Angelo, just a few degrees underneath him. Many are predicting a future not just bright in NXT, but beyond that. You know, I reckon he'll headline WrestleMania 40. Which isn't that long away. I'm just putting that out into the world. So that is how the NXT 2.0 debutants fare on the thermometer. Now, there might be a few names you think are missing here. You know, I mean, I know that we've got, at least one debuting, the brother of the Usos rocking up at Halloween Havoc, but I can't really rate him. I'm not going to do anything yet. Maybe we'll revisit this and do it again when a few more faces have come through. Would like to know who you are loving on NXT 2.0 right now. If there are any standouts for you, let us know in the comments down there. My name is Tom Campbell for Cultaholic. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.